All right, 450 shootout today. Brisbane Motorcycles hooked us up with all these 23s. So we got Dean's Yamaha 450, my Honda, then we got a Cowie, KTM and Husky, all 23 models. Pretty exciting. We've got the whole Brisbane Motorcycles crew out here with us too. So at QMP, we're going to have the tracks just about to ourselves. And I've already made the decision that I'm on the Honda, so today is just a pure test. I've got no bias though. I'm sponsored by Brisbane Motorcycles, so I can still say whatever. I'm just really hoping that one of these bikes doesn't make me question things more than ever. But we're going to get out there, test them all and see how we go. Sweet, so I couldn't help myself, jumped on Dean's bike straight away. Obviously there's been so much hype about the 23 Yamaha, and the engine was probably the first thing I noticed. It's unreal, like the power. I could run third gear and just pull out of the turn so well, but then if I did click down to second, it'd be so aggressive, as much power as I want, but it'd actually keep pulling. Like the rev limiter on this, it allows the bike to pull, whereas on my bike, so the Honda, I find if I go to second gear, I've got a quick shift straight to third. Whereas on this, I could run it all the way up to like the next jump or the next obstacle pretty easy. On top of that, the rear end, like the chassis on the Yamaha, it just feels like you're riding on a cloud. I don't think I've ever ridden a rear end like this before. Every little bump, it's like I barely feel, it just drives forward. The front end though, I still felt like it was holding up a bit too much for me, and I didn't have that front end Honda feel, which I'm a front end rider, so for me, it's like that balance. It's like the rear end on this is amazing, but if I can't feel my front to get into the rut, what's the point? So I am pretty impressed with the bike though overall. Okay, so a review on each of the bikes. I'll just go down the line. So the KTM, actually didn't mind it today. It was really good to place the bike where I wanted. The suspension felt pretty good. It's got a little bit more hours on since I last rode it, and I feel like the chassis bed in a little bit, made it a little bit plush, a little bit nicer to find the corners. That engine is still insane. It feels like a full-blown built race engine, like straight from the box. So it's an awesome thing, but honestly for me, I think it's too much. On our tracks here, maybe if you're on like a big American open track or something, but it's pretty aggressive for the stuff that we do. Apart from that, the suspension's a little bit stiffer, which is actually good. Like as you go fairly quick, it seems to hold up pretty well. Because of that engine, it makes it feel super light, and you can turn it and weave it and it's super nimble. So that would be the biggest points I'd say with the KTM for me. And then going down the line, so we got the Cowie. When I jumped on it, I didn't have much confidence that I was going to like it, to be honest, just from the last year's shootout that I did. But it pleasantly surprised me. The Cowie felt way more plush this year. The suspension was really good on this track, and it was pretty chattery, which is what I feel like is the downfall of the Kawasaki. Is it's stiff, it's rigid. But for me today on these tracks, it felt like I could hug the ground, I could go where I want. It still steers well off the rear, but the front felt like I could actually turn this time. The one downfall I felt was the front did feel a little bit high, which made it hard for me to actually get over the bike and put it where I wanted. The engine on the Cowie, so it's definitely a mellower power, and I feel like if you want any sort of snap, you need to click second for the turns. If you pull third, it'll get you out of the turn, but not at any speed. It'll sort of slowly build up to the power. It's like a bike that for a 450, you want to ride it more aggressively than the other 450s. We already spoke about the Yamaha, so then to the Honda. So it was actually pretty cool. Obviously it's my bike, and I'm pretty used to it. I know what it does good, I know what it does bad. But then after riding the other bikes beforehand, it really showed up that the rear end on the Honda is hard to get traction on. So I was really struggling to get any sort of drive out of the turns. I just felt like I was spinning up, and then it felt super jackhammery in the rear. So the chassis on the Honda, it is a bit of a shorter sort of chassis, and what it does is it doesn't allow that rear end to drive as well. The front still, for me, it's the best bike out of the whole lineup for front end steering and putting the bike where you want it. But simply that rear end actually opened my eyes. I was like, now I want to go back and do a bit more work and try to see what I can gain out of it, because the other bikes, honestly, it's the worst of them by far for the rear end. It just does not seem to want to get the traction. Where it does shine though is in the ruts. It's like you can make a mistake and correct it. You can go too high, too low, and you can put it back where you want it so easily. Whereas the other bikes, if you make that mistake, it's sort of like you're on for the ride then for the rest of the rut. Whereas the Honda is so nimble, I can put it where I want. The front end, I can place it where I want. I just love that part of it. It's just really that rear end that lets it down. Also, compared to the other bikes, it revs out a lot faster. So if you come out of the turn in second gear, for example, you need to be clicking third straight away, or that power curve is going to drop straight off. So a few things I learned with the Honda, which is actually super cool to ride the other bikes to see, you know, for myself, that I'm going to be staying on the Honda. I do love the Honda, where I can now search to try to find some improvements, like coming into the race season. And then the Husky, for me, it was sort of a softer, less powerful version of the KTM. The engine was strong for sure, but it felt like a bit more of a meaty power rather than that light race sort of power. It honestly, for me, was probably the least favorite, even though today I was pleasantly surprised with all of the bikes. I'd probably still have to put the Husky for myself at the bottom of today's bikes, simply just because it was very similar to KTM, but I felt like it didn't quite have that race style aggressive engine, that quick throttle response, and it was just like it's set up more so for, I think, a weekend rider sort of thing. So suspension's pretty soft, so if you try to charge into stuff, it'll blow through. So to pick a favorite from the day, honestly, I said it like in the Brisbane Motorcycles video as well. If the Honda and the Yamaha could have a baby, I want that bike, because the engine on the Yamaha, it pulls for a long time, like it revs out a long way, and then the rear end is just unbelievable. That chassis, it drives so well out of turns. It's so predictable. I can come up over a sketchy little kicker jump a little bit sideways and just have full trust in it, which is awesome. And I don't quite get that from the Honda. But where the Honda outshines the Yamaha is just that front end steering, front end stability. So yeah, if I can somehow mash them together, I'd say that's my ideal bike. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this one, learned something from it. Maybe you can pick your own bike around it. If you are going to pick one of these bikes though, try to head to Brisbane Motorcycles. These guys are awesome, letting us do this sort of stuff all the time. So yeah, appreciate you guys, and we'll see you in the next one.